2 years ago, I had an issue with my car tires. Although the vehicle was relatively new and reliable, the tires were quite worn out, and I realized I needed to replace them. One day, while shopping at the supermarket near my house, I noticed an auto service center tucked away in a far corner of the store. I had never paid attention to it before, so I decided to check out the types of tires they offered. When I walked in, the place was practically empty. I approached the counter looking for someone who could help me, but there was no one there. The center seemed rarely used and somewhat outdated. After waiting a few minutes, I decided to just read the information available about the tires and then leave. The next night, when I got home from work, I found a postcard from the auto service center in my mailbox. It was basically an advertisement. I found it curious since I had been there the day before. However, the next day, I received another identical postcard. What initially seemed like a funny coincidence started to feel strange. Every day, for several consecutive days, I received the same flyer. That made me suspicious, so I went back to the supermarket with the flyers in hand. This time, there was an attendant at the auto service center. I showed him the flyers and explained the situation. He couldn't provide an explanation, but pointed to a pile of identical flyers on the counter and mentioned that none of them were specifically addressed to me. That's when I realized someone had been placing these flyers in my mailbox. I decided to keep an eye out. For the next 2 days, I received more flyers but couldn't see who was delivering them. However, one morning around 6 a.m., while watching from my window before sunrise, I saw a man walking slowly down the street. As he approached my mailbox, he pulled something from his pocket and placed it inside. I had finally discovered who was doing it. But what happened next terrified me. He looked directly at my window and saw me. Before I could react, he started running across my yard toward my house. He tried to open the front door, but luckily, it was locked. I thought he would leave, but soon I heard a noise coming from the back door. That's when I called the police. While I was on the phone with 911 and heading toward my bedroom, I heard the sound of breaking glass. I ran to the bathroom and locked the door. I didn't hear anything else after that, so I assumed he had left. I stayed in the bathroom for what felt like an eternity, waiting for the police to arrive. When I finally gathered the courage to come out and stepped into the bedroom, I saw the man inside my house just a few feet away, smiling. It was the most terrifying thing I had ever witnessed. He was wearing a hooded jacket, and although his face wasn't particularly distinctive, he looked like an ordinary person. I ran back to the bathroom and locked myself in again. Shortly after, I heard the police sirens. The man never tried to enter the bathroom, and by the time the officers arrived, he had already disappeared. They searched the entire neighborhood but never found him. After that, the flyers stopped coming, and I never saw the man again. Sometimes I still wonder if he saw me at the supermarket and decided to follow me, or if it was all just a sinister coincidence. What matters is that he never came back. Last year, I really needed a new laptop. Since I used my computer daily for college and occasional work, it was an essential part of my life. The one I had was old and extremely slow. I had been saving up to buy a new one, and my sister suggested that I look for laptops for sale online. One night, I decided to give it a try. I was looking for a newer, more powerful model. After several days of searching, I found an ad that seemed like a great deal. I did a quick background check and decided it was the best option for me. I contacted the seller, who responded quickly. He introduced himself as Bruno and said he could meet me the next afternoon after work. We agreed on a price of $800 in cash, a significantly lower amount than what a brand new laptop would cost in stores. On the agreed day, he suggested meeting in the parking lot of a local shopping center. It was a busy place, so it seemed safe. My sister decided to come with me so I wouldn't be alone. We arrived a few minutes before 2 p.m., the scheduled time. I sent Bruno a message letting him know we were there, and he replied that he was on his way. We waited for about 30 minutes, but Bruno never showed up. He read my last message, but never replied. My sister thought he might have backed out of the sale, maybe realizing that the laptop was worth more than what he was asking for. Frustrated, we went back home. When I got home, I tried to find the ad again, but I realized that Bruno had blocked me and the listing had disappeared. That made me angry, but I decided to move on and restart my search for another laptop. I was in my room when my sister suddenly ran in, terrified. She said she had heard a noise at the back window and saw a man outside. A few seconds later, we heard the back door being opened. We knew it wasn't our parents, who wouldn't be home until around 5 p.m. We ran into my room and locked the door, pressing our bodies against it as we heard footsteps inside the house. My sister tried to call the police, but before she could dial, the footsteps got closer. We froze, trying not to make a sound. The intruder entered her room and started searching through her things. That's when I had an idea. I whispered that we should escape through the window. I opened it as carefully as possible, but a loud noise broke the silence. At that moment, we heard rapid footsteps in the hallway, rushing toward my room. I jumped out of the window, followed by my sister. As she climbed out, my bedroom door burst open. We ran through the backyard and straight to our neighbor's house, where we called the police. When the officers arrived, the man was still inside our house. They found him hiding in the basement. To our shock, it was the same Bruno who had posted the laptop ad. We later found out that he had been at the parking lot that day, watching us from a distance. He had followed us home, probably after the cash I had brought to buy the laptop. Since then, I swore never to trust online sales without taking extra precautions. It was a terrifying lesson, but one that taught me to be more careful. This happened a few months ago when I went to a large home improvement and hardware store called Ferreira & Sons, known for its vast sections of tools and equipment for home projects. I was looking for power tools to complete some projects at home that I had been putting off for a while. I went on a Friday night, planning to work on Saturday. The store was quiet, with only a few customers walking around. I went straight to the power tools section and started comparing models and prices. I was the only person in that aisle until a man walked in. He was at one end, and I was at the other. I didn't pay much attention to him, but I noticed his presence. After a few minutes, I saw that he was getting closer. He was tall, probably around 6'5", 1.95 meters, and looked to be about 65 years old. He wore a gray hoodie and ripped jeans. His face looked young, but he had an unkempt beard. He greeted me with a simple "hi," and I responded politely. Almost immediately, he asked if I could lend him some money. I refused, apologizing, and stepped away. As I walked away, I heard him muttering curses under his breath. I moved to another part of the store, but then realized I had forgotten to pick out my tools. Reluctant to go back because of the stranger, I decided to grab some batteries that I also needed. When I returned to the tools section, there he was again, walking toward me. We made eye contact for an uncomfortably long second before I passed by him. I finally chose 2 tools and headed to the checkout. The man lingered nearby without carrying anything. When he saw me paying, he watched me closely. The store had 2 exits, one through the main entrance and another near the checkout area. To avoid crossing paths with him, I decided to leave through the entrance. He noticed and started moving faster, trying to reach me. Before he could block my way, I changed direction and exited through the opposite door, which luckily was closer to my car. Relieved that I didn't see him nearby, I ran to my vehicle and got inside. As soon as I closed the door, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw him standing right behind my car, staring at me. He started yelling, telling me to get out. I locked the doors and started the engine. That's when he ran to the rear passenger door, trying to open it. Without thinking twice, I reversed, turned the car, and sped away. To this day, I don't know what he intended, but I'm very grateful I never found out.